What's up, everyone? Welcome to our second ever Prepper News. We'll start with US politics. Yes, I know, it's a UK channel, I know. The assassination attempt on President Trump has took the media by storm last week. It's the first time an assassination attempt that's resulted in an actual injury has happened since the 30th of March 1981, when President Reagan was shot by John Hinckley. Now, the recently deceased Thomas Matthew Crooks managed to climb a building with bags and a rifle in tow, lie prone on this building, crawl up to a shooting position, unload 4 or 5 rounds before actually getting taken down by the Secret Service snipers. By all accounts, Crooks was a very intelligent student, receiving recognition awards in maths and science. However, according to his fellow students, he was quite a loner, often bullied for wearing things like hunting outfits in school. Crooks was also a registered Republican, which may seem a bit strange to some, but often a Democrat will register as Republican to affect the internal politics of the party. Now, we have some channels and some people saying that this was a publicity stunt, that this was a hoax, that this was set up, that when he did this, it was a blood capsule. To those people, I respectfully say, you're a fucking idiot. Are you trying to tell me that President Trump or anyone, especially a billionaire, would risk somebody shooting that close to their head for a publicity stunt? And we've seen stills now and slowed down footage, and you can see the bullet passing. It's actually a bullet. It's not blanks. And the poor people that lost their lives in the crowd, God rest their souls, have some more respect than pull up wild crackpot theories like that. You can see in the detailed modelings of how close Trump actually came to losing his life. And if it wasn't for a quick turn of the head, not because he heard the hit bullets or just anything like that, just luckily on the timing, and then he would not be here today. It would have took the back of his head off. So, to me, Donald Trump is a very lucky man. Or, if there is a higher power, he or she is really looking out for him. The only conspiracy theory that I'll give any sort of merit to during this situation is the conspiracy that it could have been against Trump. Because the timelines, they just don't add up. And it's nearly an hour between when the suspicious activity from Crooks was first spotted to the point he was taking shots. And many witnesses were even shouting to officers and police and people on the side saying, he's up there, he's got a gun. Minutes before shots were fired. So why didn't the snipers take him out sooner? It's not like they had a restricted line of sight. They had a line of sight straight to him. So were they ordered not to neutralize the target? Were they ordered to stand down? This is the only theory that actually stands any merit with me. I've got a feeling we'll have conspiracy theories and things circulating around this for many months and years to come. But let me know your thoughts below. Completely unrelated to this, I'm sure, Biden has now stepped down a week after this, possibly to save face so he doesn't lose to a landslide victory by Donald Trump, which the polls were starting to predict. According to NBC News, he felt isolated, frustrated, and angry, and felt betrayed by allies that had turned on him. With polls slipping, campaign donors fleeing, and party members pushing him for the door, it felt like the inevitable end for Biden's presidency. And yes, the conspiracy theories are already out, saying that he's not just stepped down, that he's passed away. The signature was fake on the letter that was seen, and obviously we had reports that he had COVID, and people are saying that he's already passed away. I'm not sure that they wouldn't report that. I don't know why they wouldn't report it. It actually does them a favor to do it that way. So it's an interesting theory. But I won't speculate on it, and I will hope he makes a speedy recovery and can enjoy his retirement on the golf course. The world at war now. I only want to touch on this very briefly. because there's so many channels dedicated to the conflicts that's going on all around the world. Unless there's a major escalation that's going to directly affect us, I'm trying to kind of stay away from the day-to-day reporting. We will say Putin has mounted up his intensity of his attacks recently, but Ukraine's resilience has stood strong against that as well. And they have reported over 1,000 Russian troops and over 18 Russian tanks destroyed in just one single day of these attacks. Despite this, Russia is making advances into Ukraine, albeit very slight. Elsewhere, the war in the Middle East continues to intensify, with the conflict going on in Gaza, and tensions continue to intensify with Lebanon, as strikes between Hezbollah and Israel are getting more and more daily. We'll continue to monitor these two situations, and if anything does escalate even more so, then I'll report on it more, but there is a lot of dedicated channels to doing this, so that's why we're only skirting around the very brief of that. Back to the UK now, where we've got our own chaos going on. We've had 3 days of what the mainstream media is calling demonstrations or protests, but anybody with eyeballs can see these are riots going on in the Hare Hills area of Leeds. This was started when social services deemed it necessary to intervene and remove some children for their own safety from a family based in the Romanian community. This started protests, and I will concede that some of the protests are peaceful, and people were singing and holding up signs saying, "Give back our children." But this was overshadowed by police who were trying to get the social service workers out of there safely, being attacked by crowds of people. Quickly, specialist officers were deployed to the area, and they soon came under a barrage of bricks and thrown missiles. Police cars have been overturned and vehicles set on fire. It really does look like a war zone in this part of Leeds. There have been a few arrests, but with the parents now saying that they will go on hunger strike until the children have returned, the council have bent over to this whim and said they will urgently review the case. This is scary when it's a service designed to protect young innocent children from any sort of abuse. Yet, despite them doing that, they can be held to ransom and be forced to change the way they do things and change their decision ultimately. Is this the message that we want to put out to the rest of the UK? You can obey laws if you want, but if you cause a big enough upset and stink, we'll back down. I'd love to know your thoughts about what's going on in Leeds at the moment and if it's been handled in the right way. Some workers found themselves with a long weekend this weekend just gone, with many businesses closing their doors for an early weekend starting on Friday morning. And this was caused by the very software that's supposed to prevent from cyber attacks. CrowdStrike is an American cybersecurity technology company based in Austin, Texas. They provide endpoint security and cyber attack solutions to some of the largest companies around the world. A code error in the update that they rolled out affected nearly 8.5 million computers around the world, which means it could go down as the worst cyber event in history so far. People were seeing the effects all over the world all day on Friday, and there was very little that on-site IT teams could do to combat this. We also saw payment and banking systems down, flights grounded, NHS services affected, and many websites on the internet unreachable. Needless to say, somebody's probably going to get fired for this one. But Microsoft have now come out and said the EU rules have made the outage possible, stating that it wasn't possible to put protections in place due to the long-standing agreement with the European Commission, and how much effect something like this can have on everything we use day to day in just a short period of time. Did this give you a taste of what could happen? Let me know in the comments if this affected you in any way, and if it's affected the way you prep. The UK migrant crisis seems to be getting worse daily, as the 6th person this week has drowned in the Channel off a small boat. The previous government's Rwanda scheme has been scrapped, so now the Labour government is trying to process over 90,000 asylum applications at a record rate, and we're expecting them to accept 60,000 at least of them 90,000 applications, all to be done within the coming months. I guess this means they best get started very quickly on them 1.5 million homes they were supposed to be building. I'm trying not to be too political here, but it's not a great start for the Labour government. The only way I see this affecting my preps is my own personal security at home and, of course, the ever-increasing cost of living. Because guess what? That tax to pay for all that has to come from somewhere. Now, I know I said I wasn't going to be doing the weather, but I lied. For those of you that thought summer was over, don't worry, it's not. August is set to be a huge heat wave coming, with a tropical pressure system promising loads of sunny days and really sticky nights, wondering why we still don't have aircon as standard in this country. And that's set to be here throughout all of August. As preppers, we tend to prepare in this country for cold weather, for floods, but we should be prepared for extreme heat as well. It's not often it happens, but when it does, it's best to be prepared for something like this. Because as a country, unfortunately, we're not really ready for it, ever. And we always see fatalities when we get this kind of heat wave. Now, there's a million videos on YouTube telling you how to cool yourself down, how to make a makeshift air conditioner, how to do little tricks like that. And I'm sure all of them are giving great advice, maybe some bit more questionable than others. But all I'm going to say is don't take the warm weather for granted. Think of elderly relatives, check in on neighbours where possible. Don't leave kids, pets, or even the missus in the car, because even with a gap left in the window for air, this can still have deadly consequences in this extreme heat. And above all else, stay hydrated, you yourself and those around you. But other than that, dig out the Speedos and the cotton hankies, and I'll see you on the beach. Over to sports now.
It's not coming home!
And that's the last time we'll ever do sports. And now, the real weather. The solar weather, that is. Since our last news update, we've seen an unprecedented amount of solar spots travel across our solar disk. Some more active than others, and at one point we saw an X2 class solar flare. Luckily, not directly facing the Earth, so we had no detrimental effects from that. We have seen multiple M-class flares throughout this last week and a half, which have created minor radio disruptions, but nothing major there. However, I still don't think we're quite at solar maximum, so we're not out the woods with this one yet, as this new sunspot is just becoming Earth-facing. AR3762 already has 15 sunspots and has the markers for potentially letting out X-class flares. So we'll be keeping a close eye on this one. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you've got the bell notifications set to all. Because if we go live with an emergency alert for a major flare, you don't want to miss that one, because there'll be no replay. Thanks for tuning in to the Prepper News. I've been Mike. Stay classy, YouTube.
City lights go dark, streets are bare. Solar flares ignite the air. Grid down, now hearts pound. Chaos looms above.